record to the cloud. Wait, it says it's recording, but what's a cloud? Does anybody know what the cloud is? Do you have a cloud? I don't have a cloud.
I've got a cloud.
You have a cloud?
Yeah. I don't know why it's not recording to your.
So there was something we watched about that. Hold on. So
doing the black buffalo pouches with the blood orange.
Oh, really?
We're up.
Nicotine, no tobacco.
We're up?
We're up.
All right.
I mean, between the three of us, we got about 7 brain cells. So if this whole thing works, I'll be astonished.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways,
It's recording, so that's
it's
good.
recording. I mean, that's a good thing.
I don't know where the fuck it's going, but it's recording.
It's going somewhere. I mean, the Chinese will end up with it, and then they'll, AI it.
We'll be TV stars over there.
Yeah, we'll be. I'm huge in China, literally, but I mean, just physically, not famous wise or anything else.
I was gonna say I'm huge here too. It just doesn't.
Well, thanks everybody. Welcome to the Plus Size Models podcast. We have a special guest tonight. Me and Tim, Wess Larabee, Uncle Wes, flew into town. Apparently, there was a little bit of a. Well, he's got horns going off. He just whatever, but. Apparently there was a little bit of a southern breeze and he just decided to blow on up here pulling his boat. So we got all kinds of stuff to talk about. I got some questions, Tim. Did you get a bunch of questions today too?
I've got a bunch of questions. I've got some really good topics to talk about too they're pretty deep. I mean, we got birds to talk about. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about tonight.
This is gonna end up being a long one. Thank God it's Friday and I don't have to work. So all right. So before we get into the questions and all the topics, let's run over some of the stuff. Well, part of the reason why Wes is here, but also what you and I talked about today. We got some big announcements coming. We're going to be able to, first of all, if everything on this whole entire camera experience works, the video is going to get posted to the Patreon page. That's going to happen before the podcast goes out. So you guys are going to have to, look at us. By the way, Tim, that studio's pretty sweet.
You're welcome. It's pretty badass. Here, let me see. Oh no, and then I did that. Yep, it ain't gonna work. I can't pick my computer up off the thing. But yeah.
Don't touch anything. It's working.
No. Yep, fine, fine. But now it's pretty sweet. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It is, man. Like that looks really good. But so here's the big announcement. So we're gonna be doing a ton of stuff when hunting season gets started here. Wes is I guess
becoming a North Dakota resident by the first week of September.
He's already Canadian. He's gonna have some Labatt Blues and everything.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. He could have done this back, several months ago and been able to qualify for a resident license, but planning's not a strong suit there.
We don't believe.
So what Tim was asking, you just kind of decided to say F it one day?
Well, it kind of all started when I drew my turkey tag on the res. And we were being slow at the mine. And they offered us furlough because we're so slow. And I took the furlough. And then I'm like, I've been there 18 and a half years. If I stay there any longer, it ain't gaining me anymore besides the paycheck. Yeah. So I said, time for a change. So
you lucky bastard.
Yeah.
So it's decided.
It is decided.
It all happened in 2 days. I had talked to Tyler like a week before that. And I said, I think I'm going to put my house up for sale. So I put my house for sale on Tuesday. Tyler called me on Thursday. I no more than pushed the X on my iPhone. And a guy called me and said, I'll give you what you're offering on your house.
Holy damn it.
And they will pay for the title company, all that. I don't have no closing costs whatsoever. So I get, yeah.
To me, that means he didn't ask enough money.
Well, yeah. Me too.
I didn't, but I got out of it more than what I paid for it. So
yeah,
and I'm done.
And the way the housing market is, it's probably an all right thing that it got.
That's what I said. And I knew I wasn't going to get, my tax assessment value out of it. So I just said, I'm going to ask a little bit more than what I bought it for and see where it goes. And wham, 2 days later.
Hell yeah.
Well, and then they wanted to close in 30 days. And when you're 52 years old, you have 52 years of shit that you got to clean out. So I got a roll-off dumpster and I started in the garage, and I'm about halfway through the house going, what do they call it? Minimalist.
Yeah.
Clothes, guns, decoys, and that's it.
And dogs.
And dogs.
That's it.
And kennels.
I mean, honestly, though, that's really all you need in life. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
It's my philosophy is I was obviously living too high on the hog. Because I mean, it's hard to give up a job that you make close to $50 an hour at.
Oh yeah.
And
but you can't put a price on happiness.
No,
man.
you can't. And I've been miserable there for about on 6, 7 years, 8 years.
I was gonna say since I've known them.
And it just kept getting worse and worse. And I finally just said, I called my dad and I said, hey, what do you think if I quit? And he's like, oh, you can't quit. You can't give up that kind of money. And then Tyler calls me. And this plan starts clicking in our heads.
Yeah, you can.
So then I call him and tell him, well, I quit my job today. This is what I'm doing. He goes, it's something you wanted to do since you're 7 years old. Go do it. You ain't getting any younger.
Yeah.
100%. Do what you love.
Yeah.
What's that Letter Kenny line? Do what you love. You never work a day in your life.
That's right. That's right. So the plan is, we're going to blow up the podcast. It's going to get exciting here. So Wes is going to be here. Our buddy George McNamara, Coach Mac and Stash on Instagram. He's going to be here. I sold him 2 acres. He's going to be up here all of September and all of October this year, but he's building a house up here April 1st next year. So him and Wes, they're going to help me co-host the Birds, Booze, and Bud show. They're going to start a waterfowl hunting show, which I will also help co-host on occasionally. Then we got my buddy Roger Schumann and Kellen Latendress, 2 very well-known fishing guides and tournament fishermen from here in North Dakota, walleye masters. They also do a lot of waterfowl hunting, like to hunt pheasants, all the stuff that we all like to do. They're just like us, but they're like, they feel the same way about fish and walleyes that you and I feel about hunting birds. And and Wes, I mean, he got a lab, so we kind of, we push him over off to the side a little bit.
He's for my waterfowl hunting. That's all.
He's one of them.
He's one of them.
I'm converting. It's becoming addictive.
So we're gonna have those 3. We're gonna have my podcast, the waterfowl hunting podcast, and the fishing podcast. And I talked to you today and asked you if you would be interested and okay doing an extra plus size models podcast a month. And then is what I'm thinking, you and I will do 2 plus size models. Maybe Wes will join, maybe George will join, whoever. We can do it. You got that awesome studio there. You're also going to be up here in October, hunting not very far from here. Could do a couple in person. And then on the off Fridays, we're going to do a call-in show where we're going to have we'll either get a list of names or we'll just have I'll get a generic cell phone. I'll add a cell phone to the plan. And we'll turn it on Fridays from 7 o'clock until 8:30 or whatever. And they can call in. We'll run the audio through the recording. We'll answer your questions. You might get an answer. And we don't care what you ask us.
Yep.
You can ask
any
us
question you want.
Nothing's off the table. You can ask us what kind of socks or underwear we wear. You can ask us why we shoot what we shoot. You can ask us our favorite birds, our favorite places, our truck setup, our collar setup, whatever it is. You're going to get the straight dope from us. You're not going to get any bullshit. And so we're going to try to put out 4 to 5 right around 4 podcasts a week. And it's going to be just in your face all the time. There's going to be stuff. You're going to start blowing up your YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
And we're going to be doing the same thing on this end with the GoPro stuff, as well as there's a couple other pretty exciting things that happened today. One of them is a guy by the name of Jake Terry. He runs one of the media companies, but he also just bought Gundog Grind Coffee.
Nice.
And they want to come on, and we're gonna try to figure out some stuff to do together with and I can drink me some coffee every day. In fact, there's a half a pot sitting right here next to me that I'm actually going to turn on because I might have a cup here in a little bit. But he did the Final Rise films this last year for Matt Davis.
Sure.
All 4 of them. So instead of them giving me money to advertise on the podcast, they're going to come up for 4 or 5 days and they're going to do a really nice professional film job for us.
Awesome.
And we'll do some waterfowl, we'll do some upland stuff. We'll do some like, I want a YouTube episode out of it, and then the rest of it's going to be all for social media. Sure. And I have Jack hired again for another 3-week road trip in November, December. So we got a lot of exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to coordinate some stuff around this way too. You guys come down and we can get after some birds in places that I know that are really, really good.
How far are you from like Sioux City?
Oh, depends on who you ask and how much you want to know. I don't know. It's probably 45 minutes or so.
Pretty close.
Yeah, you're right down close to my parents, and they're like,
oh yeah,
45 minutes from Sioux City into South Dakota there.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and I've got all kinds of places down by southern Iowa for quail that are unbelievable too. So,
well, probably is what we can do, because we're Jack, the camera guy, has been after me for some sort of a itinerary. He's coming from Missouri, and we were going to have him meet me or us in Kansas and film the road trip down, kind of like we did last year, but do it in reverse. Maybe we have him meet us up at your place, and he can film for us for a couple of days. We can film some pheasants and maybe some quail in southern Iowa and South Dakota. We can go down to Kansas after that, then Arizona, and then work our way back up chasing chuckers.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that would work out well. And I mean, pheasants in the snow is just fun. Now, I would assume that you guys are going to have some snow by December 1st, but you never know.
Hope so. Well, kind of. The first snow, if you guys showed up on the first snow, that'd be unbelievable.
yeah, right. Knock on wood. If we can get that timing to work out, that would be pretty wild.
Yeah, that'd be pretty epic. But,
so, anyways, that's all I wanted to say about that. All that stuff's coming. Wes is going to be up here in a couple weeks full time. We're going to start building a podcast studio. Not here. This is in the garage. This is actually going to be a kitchen when we're all done. But in the house, I just ordered one of the big Rodecaster boards with 4 microphone inputs. I ordered us some really nice headsets with microphones. Ordered that today. That's going to be in next week. And so as soon as that comes in and Wes gets up here full time, we're going to start working on that. And hopefully we're going to be ready to roll with all of this stuff by the time season starts. So that's the plan.
Yep. Yeah. The Rodecaster is the only way to go. That's what I have. I mean, it's the only way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that podcast with Mike Nadeski over in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago for the Ugly Dog podcast. And he had it, and he pulled this thing out that looked like some sort of an alien keyboard. I was like, I'm never going to be able to figure this. That's the same one. And he's like, this thing he's like, it's like looking at a Garmin 200i or your iPhone or whatever. He's like, it'll do 100% more than what I know how to do with it. But just for the basics, I know how to make a recording. I know how to make it sound good. I know how to change the audio levels, and that's enough.
Yeah.
I just ordered that exact same thing.
Yep. We can even have sounds on here. I don't know if this one's hooked up. Let me see if it'll work. No.
Yes.
Oh, applause.
Yes.
Yeah, I got all kinds of shit on there.
That's what we're gonna need for the call-in show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna need some sound effects for the call-in show.
Yep.
It's gonna be awesome. I am really looking forward to that. But the other thing that we were talking about doing is, whether it's on my podcast, their podcast, whatever, we want to start incorporating some of our GoPro videos into the podcast themselves. So we're gonna set up, when we get the studio done, we're gonna have cameras in there. All that stuff's gonna go to Patreon, and then we'll take some clips and put it up on YouTube and everything else. Yep. But we're gonna take our favorite moments of the week, whether it's the best dog work, the most epic flush, a really nice water retriever, bird retriever, dog's first point, whatever it is. and we're going to be able to take that little clip and actually show it on the screen. And we're also going to be able to walk people through, a dog standing on point in a chokecherry thicket up here for sharptails, say, and why we're approaching the dog the way we're approaching it. We can go over the wind direction. We can talk about how we're cutting off angles. And then we're going to have the good, and then we're going to have the bad, then we're going to have the ugly, where it's our epic fails, where dog standing on point, we're walking up to flush of birds, we fall down in a badger hole and the rooster flies off, or we end up whiffing twice on a covey rise.
Don't point at me.
Oh,
we're gonna really try to up the value of everything that we're gonna try to do over the from now going forward. So everybody that's been there with me since the beginning, it's been a wild journey, and I've wanted to get the podcast. I wanted to do a lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now for a while. But getting Wes up here and getting George up here is going to give me help. It's a lot of work, and there's just not enough time a lot of times to do it. I want to get content out, and I want to do all that stuff. But one of the reasons that you and I started doing this together when I approached you back in May or whatever it was, is because it's just hard trying to I've got 317 podcast episodes out there now. I've talked to a lot of people. And having somebody like you and Wes, where we can kind of co-host with each other and then bring a guest in every once in a while, or, whatever, instead of trying to find a guest and make something work. And it's hard to do that, and I've had a lot of podcasts in the last 6-7 months that after, when I'm recording them, I'm like, it's not that good. It's somebody that's trying to sell something, and some people that are approaching me that want to come on the podcast. Or the worst thing is when somebody comes on the podcast that's really fun, really smart, they got great stories, and then they clam up and they start giving those one-word responses. And so in the last 6 months, I've probably done 5 or 6 podcasts that nobody's ever heard, and I just deleted. I got 20-30 minutes into it, and it was a chore trying to get anything out of them. But when you have co-hosts, you're going to have different perspectives than I'm going to have, and Wes is going to have different perspectives than you're going to have. And so we're going to be able to kind of gang up on these guests a little bit, and we're going to be able to follow down these rabbit holes, and we're going to be able to get different guests on from different types of hunting. And it's going to make everything a lot better.
Well, and it's it's a conversation. It's not like an interview. It's just we're having a conversation about certain things. Like some of the stuff that I have for us tonight it's gonna make people think about what we're trying to get across. You know what I mean? It's pretty deep stuff, and I'm like, well, why not?
Sure.
Why not? It also opens up the conversation everywhere.
Yeah.
And if I ask a question, it might make you think of something, and then when you ask your question or your response to it, then it opens up his mind to something different. It just makes your conversation a lot smoother.
Absolutely. And I know, I'm pretty sure you guys are like me. I'm not going to shy away from the tough stuff,
No.
the hunter recruitment and everybody on each other's butts about stupid shit. Yep. I'm not gonna hold back, because we can't do that anymore. We're not gonna make it if we don't stop this BS, man.
100%. Yeah, we got to quit fighting amongst ourselves. There's a big difference between self-policing, bad actions, and trying to find something to pick a fight.
Yeah.
And if there's every year, for the opening weekend of sharptail season, inevitably you'll see somebody with a tailgate full of young pheasants. Happens every year. They got it posted on Facebook and Instagram and everything else. And there's the people that'll look for that, and they're going to start commenting to ridicule that person. And then there's the right way to do it, which is to send a DM and say, hey, you might want to take that picture down. You might want to talk to the Game and Fish and say, hey, I made an honest mistake, whatever. But in the social media atmosphere that we all live in now, it's blood sport is what it is. And, you're hot spotting and you're doing this and you're doing that, and fuck all of that. I mean, Like, let's try to be good, and let's try to do what we think is the best thing to do and have as much fun as possible. And let's try to make everybody else have as much fun as possible as well.
Yeah. And, you know, make it to where, you know, people that don't go bird hunting actually want to maybe think about trying it. Don't be saying there's like, well, I don't even know why you're going to South Dakota to hunt birds because there's no wild birds there. They're all pen raised stuff. I'm like, dude, we need more hunters to push more habitat to make wild birds. Oh, dude, there was one this week that just, whew, I don't usually respond to shit, but man, that one got me fired up.
Yeah.
I was fired up. And I don't usually get that way, but it's like, come on. Like, you're telling people to actively not go hunting anymore. Like, what in the hell are you doing?
Selfish reasons.
Yeah.
And
that's all it is.
100% that's what it was. Like, maybe he's the one that doesn't want anybody to hunt because then he's got spots. And no, stop it.
Yeah. There's
plenty of grass out there for everybody, you know.
100%. And you know, I've been doing this now. I just passed my 7-year anniversary of the podcast. I started it right before I moved out here to the farm. It would have been end of July 2016. And like the world's different than it was then. Like this whole podcasting thing was new. There was no real upland bird hunting YouTube stuff because the cameras weren't there. Like you could watch The Flush, American Bird Hunter, and that was basically it.
Yeah.
And then so it was kind of like this underground cult thing where for years we've been watching bass fishing and whitetail deer hunting and turkey hunting on what used to be the Nashville network, TNN. TNN.
Yeah, and then TNN.
Yeah, and then the Outdoor Channel came along and you know, Due North Outdoors and all that kind of stuff. And we're all roughly the same age here. I remember how excited I was when there was a show that would come on that was about bird hunting. Now there's an abundance of content out there. And everybody, like, you have to take the people's, like, the intent. You have to believe that the intent of the creators like us is pure. And I had I posted I can't remember exactly what the post was, but this guy on Facebook from, and I never engage with these people, but I was in a mood and I was like, all right.
Usually
he was from down in Kansas, and he started saying, you know, leave the GoPro at home. It's for whatever. And it's like, no, I'm not going to leave the GoPro at home. I want to watch my dogs. And, you know, and he just kind of kept on and on and on and on and on. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, just keep on hiring guides and paying for access. And I was like, okay, that's where I draw the line. Sex and bird hunting are the two things I will never, ever, ever pay for. Ever once in my life, not once. And in that order, like those two are the hard pass.
Yeah.
And so then after that, I kind of let him have it. And then what's kind of fun for me in this whole blood sport that is social media is watching the people that I know that I've hunted with that actually know what I'm about jump in and start attacking this guy. And then I was like, now I'm part of the problem. Like, I could have absolutely defused this, but if you're going to be a dick, I'm going to be a dick back. And I got an idea. Let's none of us be dicks. Like, can we get back to the golden rule? You know, treat others as you want to be treated. Like, give everybody the benefit of the doubt. There's enough places and enough grass and enough opportunities out there for everybody. And that's what we're trying to do is tell some stories, have some fun, and shorten the learning curve. End of story.
Yep. I mean, just show people how much fun it is to go out there and do this. Like you can too. You even with say you've got a golden doodle or a lab or whatever, or a short hair that's never hunted before in its life, you can still go out there and walk with your dog, and you would be surprised how these dogs can, you know, pull it out of their head from their, you know, their lineage,
their wolf ancestry from hundreds of generations ago. Yeah. So just a funny story.
Point.
Right. Who cares? Yeah, my dogs aren't always the greatest either. But when the first time that Roger comes on the podcast, when we're gonna try to do like an introductory video for him, and when George gets up here, and then for and Wes has been on the podcast many times, and so has George. So people kind of know them, but they don't know Roger and they don't know Kellen. But we'll get Roger to tell the story. His first dog was a dachshund. And it didn't know its ass from a hole in the ground, but it would flush pheasants out of the cattails, and he would just take it out. And its name, I believe, was no shit Precious. And he was like 14 years old, and it was his mom's dog, and he would just take it for a walk down the road. And one day the dog bails off into the ditch, smells something, and a big old rooster pheasant comes up. And after that, that was his first hunting dog. It's like it's there. You just got to encourage it.
Yep. Yep. I remember back home, my parents there was an old guy that lived in town. He had 2 Boston Terriers that would retrieve pheasants.
Sure.
And I think them little stub-nosed bastards would be able to do it, but they did it.
Yeah. I haven't seen a pug in the field yet. I think they would have probably a little bit of a problem with that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Never know. Hey,
somebody will send us a message.
My first one was an English collie.
Yeah,
it was a cow dog, and I tell you, that was one of the bird huntingest damn dogs. It would retrieve ducks out of water. Whatever you shot, he'd go get it.
Well, look at Gerhard Stephenson from over in Wyoming. He hunts Himalayan snowcock with a goddamn border collie or Australian Shepherd, whatever it is.
One of them.
Yeah. And like he's taking them all over the country. They're down in Arizona chasing Mearns quail with that Australian Shepherd. It's just get out there and have fun. And we talked about this on Mike's podcast a little bit. Looking at my post or your post, we've been doing this for a long time. This is, this is my 32nd season, I believe, of chasing wild birds. I didn't get good at this overnight. It took a long time to get to where I can go out and I can bring back limits and I get good dog work and everything else. It's a process. Like what we do is something that you can get to if it's something that you're passionate about. It's very attainable. I mean, you can look at us and I mean, we are in peak physical form. And top notch. Yeah. But like you can do it if it's something that you're passionate about, but don't expect that right away. Like go out and just like set your expectations realistically and have fun. And if you get a bird, you get a bird. If you don't, you don't. But it'll start building that passion inside you to where you go from, a preserve in Wisconsin or Illinois or wherever it is to you have a little bit of success. You have a passion for it. Now you're starting to listen to podcasts and read books and magazine articles and plan a trip to South Dakota or North Dakota or wherever it is to go and chase other birds. And like you have to start like there's no way. It's like bird dog training. You can't skip ahead. You can't get a puppy one day and just drop it in the grass and expect it to do everything perfectly. It's a process. Everything's steps. And if you have those expectations going into things, people would be a lot better off.
Yeah. And I mean, even with all the years that we all have, there's still days to where we just got our asses kicked by these birds.
100%.
And it's like, 100%. What the hell just happened? And then you just remember that and try to learn from it. And I mean, they're still going to do, there's a reason they're still
wild animals. Yeah. And,
so,
and then when the farther you get into it, like one of my favorite things to think about is setting conditions. And I've been doing it for a long time. And I think that as soon as I think I have setting conditions figured out, they'll throw me a curveball and I'll take a big old swing at it. And it's like I had a day last year where I went out and there was a little bit of moisture in the air. There was a little breeze and my dogs couldn't have found a bowl of food in a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah.
No idea why. Like when I left the house, I was excited. I was like, oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be on today. We got that 10-mile-an-hour wind and some moisture. Woo, it's going to be good. Nope. Wasn't good.
No.
No idea why, but it sure wasn't good.
Yeah. Mother Nature's she's a cruel, evil woman.
Fickle bitch.
Yes, she is.
All right. So with all that said, let's get into the listener questions because it sounds like we're going to have to go down some holes here.
Yeah, let me pull them up here. Whoa, that didn't work. All right.
I just read your text message and I thought it says got to take a monster poop. And you texted got to let the monster poop. He's got his puppy with. So when he was when he got here, he didn't come in right away. I was like, "What the heck's going on?" I
tried to sneak up on me like Bigfoot.
I did. I'm not super stealthy.
Oh, okay. So this one, I mean, we can go deep or we can go easy to start with.
I only got one. I got one from my buddy Jake, but let's start easy and then we'll get into the deep one last. Let's save that one.
Okay. So this is from Josh Brower, North Central Iowa short hairs.
Yep.
He goes, your post hunt wind down, do you guys season your birds or do you clean them the day of the hunt?
That's a good question. I depending on the time of the year,
Yep.
I like to let my birds sit for at least 24 hours. If it's September and it's hot outside, I'll bring them in here into the garage and I'll put them on the cool concrete floor.
Yep.
Or occasionally we'll stuff them in the beer fridge over here and let them sit for a day. Primarily, I'll let them age for quite a long time when it comes to pheasants. So I won't heat this, or I'll keep the garage in here about 50, somewhere in there. And I got a pool table over here with a wood top on it that we do some processing on. And I'll let those birds sit until I get a possession limit. So in like 4 days worth of birds, when I get 12 birds, I clean them. I'll process them. Then I'll either, run them through a grinder or I'll strip them up and put them in a marinade or cook them up or whatever the case may be. But a lot of times I'll let those birds age 5-6 days. Sure. If it's cold out. Yep.
Yep. What do you do?
If it's like really, really hot out, and this can even be when I'm in the field, if it's hot and I'm walking back, there's a lot of times I'll snap the guts out of them and then just throw them in my pouch. I always have a cooler in the back of my pickup with some ice. Don't ever put them in a plastic bag because that will make your meat go bad.
Yeah, it'll spoil it.
Yep. Just throw them in on top of that ice, let them cool for a little bit, get back to camp, wherever you're going, and then deal with your bird then.
Yep.
But that's only like, if it's 80 degrees and you're coming back, you're out there too damn long anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So at 70, you really have nothing to worry about.
Right. Yeah.
And there's times where I'm like, if I'm driving back here and it is warming up, I'll even throw them on the floorboard with the AC blowing on them. Sure. Just cool them off a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. So here it just depends. Like usually we've got a pretty good group of people. Like I've got like 8 or 9 buddies that we all hunt together, and some of them live in Omaha, so they drive back. So we usually end up cleaning stuff that everybody's taken. But if I'm by myself, yeah, I'm gonna let them sit for 4 or 5 days and let them hang in the garage. But
it really is amazing how much more tender they are if you can let them age for 4 or 5 days. And so I messed up on it wasn't a mess up, but so when we were on that big road hunting trip last year, the day that we were driving out of Arizona, it was like 60 degrees. We went and made a walk for desert quail, and I shot 2 scale quail and a Gamble's. And we're on the road, we're driving up, we get up into New Mexico that first night, get a hotel room. It's 30 degrees outside. This is December. Then the next day we drive to Kansas and it's 28 degrees in the morning and we're getting ready to film the flush, and I put on my vest and I reach in and pull out a Gamble's quail and a couple of scale quail. And we left it in the YouTube video, and there was a couple comments on there. They're like, "You should be ashamed of yourself. That's wanton waste, and you should take care of your birds." And I was like, those birds were just fine. They were absolutely 100% fine. I cleaned them. We ate them that night. We made quail poppers when we got done hunting. Nothing wrong with that. You can leave those birds for a couple days as long as it's going to be, say, between 25 and 50 degrees. Those birds will last a long time in that weather.
Well, and here's also what I started doing last year when I came up here. I hate trying to process birds and leave a wing, a head, foot, whatever. So this is what I did. cut around the anus, pulled the guts out of them, put them in a Ziploc bag, the whole bird, feathers and all, threw them in the freezer overnight here at Tyler's, and I took them home and threw them in my freezer and pulled them out one at a time. You would not believe how easy, though, once they started to thaw, to pluck them birds. If you want a whole skin on bird, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because it was simple.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe how well they plucked after I did that.
Yep. And when we clean them up here too, like the ones that I take home, if we clean them that day, I'll put them in a brine and leave them overnight. I mean, for 90% of the stuff that I use, I've got a brine that I use, and I do that. That way, when I take them out to cook them, they're, then all I got to do is throw them in the marinade and we're good.
Yeah.
So,
What I started doing is I started putting the marinade in the chamber sealer with the strips of pheasant meat, depending on what I'm going to do with the meat, and then freezing them in the marinade.
yeah.
So when I pull a pack of birds out of the freezer, if I'm going to do, like say we're going to make fajitas or whatever, it's been in the marinade, it's been in the lime juice, it's been in whatever, and you just leave it sitting there, and then you pop it open, you put it right on the grill, and it's excellent.
Oh, hell yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's for you people that have chamber sealers. I need to just buy one. That's bottom line.
Get the compact one from Walton's.
It's
$350 and it works just as good as the big one.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. I was gonna ask you about that to see, but it looks like you and Travis both say the same thing.
Yeah, it works. It works excellent. The only thing is that if you have, like, if you're going to process or chamber seal like an entire deer, your pump's going to get hot, and your strip where you seal is going to get hot, and you're going to have to give it a little bit of time to cool down in between. That's where the big one comes in handy. But other than that, like for what we do, for the most part, that little one, like I've ran the one day we had, there were 6 of us out and we caught 30 walleyes. So we had probably 18 packages of fish, something like that, putting them down into portionable sized bags, and ran through them no problem. So I got the one question from my buddy Jake, Bruce's son-in-law. So it's a 2-parter, and I'll ask this to Wes because I think me and Tim have answered this, but we'll go through it again. Question 1: besides your home state, what's your favorite state to chase birds in, and why?
Montana, more than likely, because you got all 5 species of grouse in one state.
Yeah, and lots of public land.
Yeah, and if it's not just all out Forest Service, BLM, whatever, they're walk-in, private owned.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call it?
Block management.
Block management. Yeah, amazing. When I first started bird hunting, actually with pointing dogs, I went to Montana because I was always where I lived 3 hours from the southern border of Montana. I'd be in fantastic sharptail country and would run up there anytime I could, and it was good. Yeah. So I would say Montana, favorite state.
Tim?
It's hands down North Dakota.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty close to taking over my home state. I mean, I would rather go to North Dakota and hunt there than almost anything in Iowa. But I'm like, we've talked about this before. I would much rather chase sharptails or prairie chickens more than anything. Like South Dakota, I don't even go to South Dakota to hunt pheasants. I care. Right. I'm going for chickens, and that's all I'm going. I mean, really, that's all I'm going for.
I feel the exact same way. Like if I'm going to go to South Dakota, it's going to be to go to the Fort Pierre and chase chickens. I can shoot pheasants in my yard.
Okay, so this is my question to South Dakota. Why would you run the pheasant season till the end of January and not let us shoot sharptails and chickens at the same time?
I think it's a horrible idea to run it to January anyway, in my opinion. The end of January. Yeah. There's just so many bad things that happen in January that people don't care because they'll still drive around and shoot them out of the road ditch.
Sure.
Or jump in that cattail slough and kick every single bird out of there, and it's -15 and the wind's blowing 20 and it's a whiteout. Now all them birds.
Yeah. Everyone. The 2 times we hunted the last weekend there,
it was in the 50s.
It was like
Oh,
T-shirt weather. And I mean, I could have shot more chickens than pheasants.
Yeah.
Yep. We were walking
over points held by dogs that walk up into them, and it's chickens.
Yeah, we were hunting along this this big draw for pheasants, and there was a combined sunflower field up there, and that edge of that field was polluted with chickens, and I was just like, I was shaking. I was like,
It was.
I just want to shoot that one.
Yeah,
it's a great big giant chicken. I want it.
Oh, and that's a little tidbit for everybody. Like sunflower fields are magnets. They
for chickens late season
and cornfields.
Chicken them out there at Fort Pierre. I saw more chickens on sunflower fields than I saw anywhere.
Yeah, especially late after.
Have you ever seen them before that's compound? They'll fly into the field and they'll stand below it and they'll pop themselves up and they'll peck at the head and flop it with their feet to try to knock it out, and then they'll get down. They land, pick up the seeds that came out, do it again. It's pretty cool watching them do that.
I love them birds. I would if there was only one bird left in the world, that's the one I'd go after. I mean, if I could hunt one bird, that's the one.
Yeah,
fair enough. I've answered it many times, but it's definitely Arizona. The difference in like habitat from Mearns quail to Gamble's quail to scale quail, and being able to do all three of them in one day, plus 65% of the state is publicly owned. It's hands down Arizona for me. Question 2, we'll stick in the same order. What is your dream hunt? Can be any type of hunt, big game, birds, etc. And maybe we've already done it. Wes.
I would have to say probably the only thing I haven't done is like Yukon moose or Alaskan moose.
Yeah,
I'd love to shoot one.
Yeah.
Now that
what about bird wise? Okay, so big game. Let's do it. Break it up. Let's go big game and then let's go birds.
Okay, birds would have to be woodcock. It's the only one I haven't shot.
Really?
Oh,
yep.
I didn't know you hadn't done that yet.
No.
Oh,
all right.
You got a puppy? You need to be going to Minnesota or Wisconsin.
He's got a lab puppy.
It's a lab puppy.
That's all right. It don't matter. Them things are so awesome to run a young dog on. Oh,
yeah. It's the only thing that pisses me off about losing my old dog is he shot and he's retrieved. Well, except for a Himalayan snowcock over that bird besides a woodcock. I just never made it over there because when they're there, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to give up chasing sharptails.
Yep.
For
every once in a while here, like when there's a bug on the screen.
I know it. Like the flies in here are real.
Every once in a while when we're hunting birds early, there's a few draws that the woodcock they'll stay in, and I've shot quite a few early season pheasant here.
Yeah. We our buddies from over in Michigan, the first year they ever hunted with me, my buddy Gary shot one 15 miles from here that came out of the edge of a cattail slough.
Oh, no shit.
Prairie grass and a cattail slough.
No idea.
Shoots a damn
like that one was that was like Slow Larry the woodcock, and he just got lost or something. But
they lost.
Yeah. We I mean, they're in our game and fish rags, and they got them up in the Turtle Mountains and stuff like that here and over in eastern North Dakota. But yeah, like last year was I've shot a few woodcock, but last year was the first time I was over at Pine Ridge Grouse Camp in end of October, and was actually able to experience like an actual woodcock hunt, where like before it was like we were hunting rough grouse, but we'd shoot a woodcock every once in a while. This was we were hunting woodcock and we'd occasionally shoot a rough grouse.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun, especially with the 410. That was a good time.
Oh, that would make a good time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of fun. Woodcock's a lot of fun.
What about you, Tim?
So me, big game is probably a fly-in like spike camp caribou.
Sure.
I would, like a semi-guided, like they set up the camp and they fly you in there for
up in the Brooks Range. You mean like up there?
Yep. So like you're there for a week or 7 days. You got 2 tags, and you're on your own, but yet they put you on they put you close enough to where the herd's going through, and then and
they're coming back to get you.
Yeah, hopefully
coming back to get.
Ain't bad weather.
Yep. And then bird wise, I don't know. I honestly don't. It's either a Florida Osceola turkey. That's high on my list, and I think that's going to happen in the spring with a buddy. Or Mearns quail in Arizona. I'm coming down to hunt with you one of these years coming up. I mean, it's
Dude,
just gonna happen. I think
it's
they're the coolest. I think they're the coolest quail. I mean, like looks wise, I think they're just awesome.
like
They're the jester.
yeah, they are.
They look
Like
the first time I shot them,
they look
I
like a
was
clown.
just,
Yeah.
what is this?
Like, and you were talking about how good woodcock are for puppies. Imagine hunting bobwhites that hold like a woodcock
Yeah.
in one of the most spectacularly beautiful places on the planet.
Yeah.
And wait for a good year. I don't know that this year is going to be all that good. Last year wasn't terribly good. But on a good year, you're going to run into, like, we had that one walk a couple years ago. We moved 16 coveys of quail with 3 of us in 4 hours.
That's
And
crazy.
we shot a 3-man limit. We shot 24 birds in one walk. And it was, I mean, the dogs would be on point, birds would go up, we'd have dogs looking around, and then the watch would go off. Oh, we got a dog on point. And you're kind of halfway thinking, it's like, well, it's got to be a single. And then it's a whole nother covey. And then you're doing this, like, it was like that for 4 freaking hours. It was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And when they come up right at your feet, that's the one that really makes you about shit your pants.
Oh, yeah. You step into them.
And you,
Yeah.
I witnessed the not count to 3 shoot, and we picked up part of a wing and some side feathers off that young male.
Yeah.
Done that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Tyler was saying, with a puppy, what was Doc? 11 months old when we finally went down there that year. And I mean, just wow.
Jesse's first Mearns quail season, she was 6 months old.
Yeah.
And she pointed 5 or 6 coveys of Mearns quail for me.
I mean it is fun
awesome.
with a pup.
Yeah.
Awesome.
For me, I've done everything now in the U.S. except for valley quail, and honestly, I'm not all that excited about going to chase valley quail.
It's fun.
I'm sure it is, but they're very similar to gambles. They're going to be in that really, really tight, nasty shit. They're going to run like crazy, all that kind of stuff. They're just too similar to gambles to really get me really excited about it. Like, I'm going to do it while I'm out there to chucker hunt, and I'm kind of excited to just get it off the list, and I want to get it with Rusty. Rusty is just like Wes's old dog Rooster. I got every species of game birds in North America except for valley quail off point in front of him. And so to be able to get that done would be pretty special. As far as big game goes, it would probably be it'd be something in the lower 48s. It'd probably be either like a high country mule deer hunt for like a really nice mule deer, or elk. I've never done either, never tried. But if I'm like if it's mule deer, it'd be late season rifle, someplace high and really pretty, Utah, whatever. If it's elk though, I want the show. I want it with archery, and I want that thing screaming.
Yep.
And you want to work.
Yeah.
Screaming, and you can smell them before they get to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. If I'm going to do it, I'll probably only do it once. That's what I want. So, all right. That's what I had from Jake. So.
Okay. So the next one, I've got 2 of them that are kind of serious. So, I mean, they're not serious, but I mean, we can go into the weeds with both of them. My friend Lauren, my buddy Justin's wife, she's with me on most of my hunts up here for pheasants. And what do you guys think the effect of using of insecticides are causing for our, on our bird population? Do you think it's a very, like, is it a giant factor? Is it a mediocre factor, or is there no factor?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a giant factor here in the 90s. I blame the increased spraying of pesticides on the small grain here in the 90s to our, like, 1994. There was Huns all over the place. 1995, they started spraying more aggressively with insecticides, and it also coincided with really severe, like brutal hailstorm that was widespread and one of the wettest Junes on record. I mean, like, I'm talking like 25, 30 inches of rain in a month, which is right in the middle of their nesting time. And after that year in 95, I don't think we've seen a Hungarian partridge for 4 seasons, 3 seasons. They went from being on every corner of a wheat field to a unicorn. And it was to the point where if we seen them, we wouldn't shoot at them. Like, it was, it was always a covey of like 5, 6. It was never a big full covey. And it took them a good 15 years to kind of come back from that. And it's not that it was definitely a combination of both events that worked together. But when you drop the population down to that very low level, and then the little ones don't have anything to eat for the next 8-10 years, it takes a lot longer for that population to recover. So insecticides is something that, and I think that part of the reason why we've gotten back to having better bird numbers specifically here in this part of the state, it coincided directly with the rise of the oil industry here.
Sure.
And it's not because the oil industry is good for birds. It's not, but what it did is it gave the landowners and the farmers that financial freedom to not try to burn everything to the ground. They
Sure.
were not trying to maximize their profits anymore. If they had a field that was a little weedy, they didn't really give a shit, because it was kind of, it was like, sure, they're trying to make money farming, but it's not the end of the world if they break even or, make a little bit less profit if their crop isn't quite as good.
Right. You're right. We got the oil money to offset the price of herbicides and insecticides. Sure.
Right.
I would even go further into the weeds and add onto it that it's not just the pesticides, it's the GMO planting of Roundup Ready stuff. Okay, you're from Iowa, you're in corn country. I grew up in southeast South Dakota where, it's corn and soybeans. I can remember when we used to cultivate fields with a cultivator, and when you'd harvest the field, there was always roosters coming out of that thing like crazy. Okay.
Yep.
You'd have your first snow, walk through that field, and it was littered with pheasant tracks.
Yep.
You walk through a field now, you don't even see a mouse track because
Yeah.
nothing lives in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing there for them.
It's kind of I mean, I can really go into the weeds, especially in Iowa.
But see, coming from a farm family, I get it. You got to make money.
I get, and I think with the way that the spraying practices are going now, to where they've got the sprayers now that are pinpointing the weed,
and
just
that is great.
That weed, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. But I also think I've been to a few soil, like things for work, soil, grassland, stuff like that, to where the bugs that you want gone, you're also killing the bugs that eat those bugs. So you're like, you're not like letting Mother Nature do its course. I mean, like, okay, I got a huge outbreak of aphids in my bean field. Well, what'd you spray a month ago? Well, I sprayed insecticide before the aphids were there. Well, you just killed all the bugs that eat aphids. So now your aphids are going to go crazy. So then you got to spray again. Well, where if you would have just let it go until you started seeing aphids and let the problem work out itself. But I think that the spraying practices will get better, and I think it's gonna end up being better in the long run. The one divergent I can take on the going into the weeds is our deer population has taken a tumble in western Iowa. I mean, a tumble. They're only doing buck only tags now for shotgun tags for like part of the western side of the state. EHD is a huge factor. It's taken out a lot of deer. There's no doubt about it. But as many deer fawns that I've seen pictures of and actually seen in person that have had ticks on their face and around their mouth, and they don't stand a chance. They can't open their eyes. They can't open their mouth.
Yeah.
I think the insecticides have pushed all of those bugs into the timber. This is just my perspective. Pushed all them bugs and ticks and everything out of all the fields. Because, you know, I mean, you walk a grass field, you usually get into ticks. Not up here, you don't. There's nothing unless you get into the timber. It's where all the deer are at in the timber. Well, the ticks don't have anything else but the deer to eat on and couldn't eat everything. But a fawn is a pretty easy target because it doesn't move.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that that's compounding the problem for our deer. But I mean, we got to figure out why they're going just into the timber and not like killing the ticks also. So it's, I don't know, you know, town deer don't have this problem and they're in timber all the time. The ticks aren't that bad in town, but if you go into a timber down here in Iowa and you're, you know, out in the country and you go into a timber, you're covered. I mean, you are
a lot of the reason why it's not in your townships is most of your townships fog with malathion, which kills deer ticks.
Well, yes, but like if you get into Sioux City, there isn't a whole lot of fogging going in there except for
right. Yeah.
And there, I mean, each doe's got 2 fawns and they look healthy and they look great. Well, but you know, there's not a lot of ticks. I mean, there's ticks in the timber and in the grass, but it's not like it is out in the country. Like legitimately walk a draw in the timber and I will have 150 ticks on me.
That's unreal. That's how it is in Minnesota too.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't get it, I guess is what I'm saying. But
yeah,
anyway, so
there's definitely a big deep rabbit hole there to go down, like with the deer ticks that I seen over in Minnesota last year were so bad it makes me not want to go back.
Yeah.
Like we got done with a walk and Jessie had 150, 200 ticks on her. And those deer ticks are the size of I mean, they're just teeny.
Just a pin.
And literally going over them with a fine tooth comb. And here in North Dakota, we have to worry about ticks in April, May, and June. That's it. So my dogs didn't, like, I got Seresto collars for my dogs for those 3 months, but they're not on a 12-month chewable. They're not wearing Seresto collars, 2 of them a year, none of that kind of stuff. And I thought that just because of where I live, going over there in end of October, I was like, well, ticks aren't going to be a problem. Like, you know, it's going to be 40 degrees during the day and 20 degrees at night. I'm not going to have to worry about that. And Rusty ended up coming down with Lyme's disease from that trip. And he ended up having to take like a 3-week or a month-long course of doxycycline to knock that out. And that's not even the worst tick-borne disease. Toxoplasmosis and anaplasmosis are both worse. And like, I don't know where these ticks have come from, like what the ecological situation is. There's an X factor there that I don't understand. And like George, who's not here, he's from New Hampshire, and the ticks over there are so bad that, you know, they pretty much killed all the moose. And it's the same thing in Minnesota. And you know, where the hell did they come from? Why are they here? Why can't we, like, is there something we can do to get rid of these damn things?
The old timers used to swear by it was the temperature of your winter depended on how bad the ticks were going to be. Then, like the old loggers, they would say severe winters, you won't have ticks. Because see, most of your ticks either burrow in the ground or get underneath slabs of dead trees, you know, behind the bark, and they can survive back there. And when you don't have a cold enough winter.
Yeah, and I wonder if burn isn't part of it too. I mean, a good burn to get all that leaf litter off the ground, and then a good hard freeze, maybe that can push them.
Could do it.
You know what I mean?
Because like where I live, I don't have ticks, but we have a lot of fires.
Right.
So
I don't know.
It's dry.
And it's dry. That's the other big thing too. So
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how? Like, I mean, we could talk about ticks for the next 3 hours and not solve a goddamn thing.
Yep.
But all I know is that there's a hell of a lot more of them than there used to be.
Yeah.
And like nowadays, like talking to Travis a couple weeks ago, they see ticks on the snowbanks over there when they're out hunting in December. Yeah. That's unbelievable. And it gets plenty goddamn cold up in Duluth.
Yeah.
and they still have tick problems.
But I
in
think
the
it's the extended period of cold weather
Yeah.
that kills them. You know, like, because I can remember when I was young, we would always get a snowstorm like the middle of October, and you would have snow all winter long until April.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you think that Travis like got on one of them things his back and he rode it out of there?
Probably. Probably. Yeah. Yeah. He stood on top of it, doubled his height.
Yeah, he did. He used it as a.
He got 8 of them, put them in a team, and built himself a little sled, kind of mush him out.
We have to make fun of Travis once an episode. Otherwise, he'll think we don't love him.
Yep, I think that's a rule. I think that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
We're gonna save the other one for next time, I think.
Okay. It's a big one.
Yeah, it's a I mean, we can really go deep into it.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I think that we got another one of these. Let's do another one before, and we can talk about. I know that we were going to talk about how long have we been going, Tim?
I don't even know. But
Okay.
it's 9:20, probably an hour. Maybe.
Okay. Well,
maybe.
let's dip a toe into bird reports and bird numbers.
Sure.
But let's save a lot of that for the next one we'll do in a couple of weeks, like September 1st ish.
Sure.
Because, and I'll tell you why, and I'm interested to know what you've been seeing out there. Here in North Dakota, we got a little bit of an incomplete picture still. I'm seeing a good number of adult birds, but I'm not seeing very many little ones, and it's a little bit concerning. But the fact that they haven't started any harvest up here yet, for the most part, is why I'm saying it's kind of an incomplete picture.
Sure.
The one bird that I was concerned about was pheasants, and I've seen a lot of little pheasants. That's something that I'm not as concerned about. But 2 days ago, we were driving into Stanley, and we seen 2, I'd say average size coveys of huns that were 12, 13, 14 birds. And then just past them, we seen a mama hun with 8, like little itty bitty baby ones that were, I mean, within a half mile. So I don't know if I was talking to Levi Day, who works for Quail Forever, on my way home tonight. And chuckers are well known to double clutch. Bob White quail, well known to double clutch. I have it on really good authority from a guy who worked for the Arizona Game and Fish Department that Mearns quail have been observed double clutching. We know that it happens in the quail world, and if it happens in the chucker world, it likely happens in the Hungarian partridge world. But nobody's ever done a study, and to my knowledge, it hasn't been confirmed in a wild setting. So I don't know if like that is a sign that they did exceptionally well, and that was some sort of a double clutching. Because like within a quarter mile, there was nothing that happened different between that. And I've seen several situations like that where I've seen a nice big covey, and then just down the road a little ways, I've seen like itty bitty babies. And so I don't know if it's a double clutching situation or not, but the picture will be a lot clearer here in the next couple of weeks when they start getting some egg off.
Right. Sure. Yeah, I was impressed with the amount of huns that I saw, which I don't know if it's different just because we're in a different location and the food source isn't that much, but like the clutches that I saw were not that big, like 5-8 ish.
Sure.
I don't know if that's just because of location, because we've got huns, but we just don't see a lot of them. I mean, they're usually on our terraces, and a lot of people don't hunt our terraces, and then then they're going to run out off of the terrace into the cornfield, and you're still not going to find them.
Right.
So,
like up here, and what I would consider to be a good average size covey huns is going to be 14 to 16. That's going to be everything went right in that situation.
Sure.
The average clutch size of a hun is from 14 to the biggest ever observed is 22 eggs. So if I'm seeing lots of 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s, everything worked out pretty well. If I'm seeing 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, something went wrong. And that can certainly be on a case by case basis. But it's been the same thing with sharp tails. Like some of the spots that I've been running dogs here the last week, we just got done with my August training and fishing camp. Had some really good guys up here. We had a ton of fun. But when we're out running on the prairie, we're seeing a lot of adult birds, and we're not seeing very many little ones. I don't think that's not necessarily abnormal. We'll end up seeing a lot of the little ones as the crops come off, because those females will fly into the leks, get bred, and then fly back to what they deem to be more favorable nesting cover. And that's going to be an area that's a lot more bug rich. The prairie this year, because it was wet, doesn't have the number of grasshoppers on it that it's had the last few years. However, the rest of the bugs did very well. But grasshoppers are kind of a byproduct of drier years, and this wasn't a dry year. So, like, time will tell. I think everything's going to be okay. But until the crops start coming off, I don't necessarily want to say, it's all doom and gloom, and I don't want to say everything's rosy and wonderful either.
Right. It's just too early to tell yet for your area. I mean, I was impressed with the flooding, but we'll just leave it at that. So we'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
But I was impressed with in Northwest Iowa what I saw, and I even went and did one in South Dakota too. So I took 7 days in Iowa and I went 7 days in South Dakota, and I was even more impressed with what I saw in South Dakota. But nice. I mean, it's like Darren, what's his name, that lives in South Dakota's got a bunch of ground, hunts with on the flush a couple times. Darren starts with his last name.
Wheel Dryer or whatever.
Wheel Dryer. He's like, they can say that they supply pheasants to the area. So I've never heard of anybody supplying a clutch, and I've seen a bunch of them.
Right.
I'm like, that's
right.
True.
Right. And like to the people that, and I like to give South Dakota shit because we have a rivalry. Them goddamn jackrabbits down there. But there's plenty of birds that are released as adult birds in the fall, but those birds carry over and they make wild chicks in the spring. And there's a pretty goddamn steep learning curve on those pen raised birds. If they release pen raised birds and if they survive for the first week, they know that shit's trying to eat them.
Yep.
And they get pretty smart pretty quick. Yeah.
And if they hang out with wild ones and they learn what's going on, it's not very hard to believe that they would just figure it out.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like anybody who actually believes that all the pheasants in South Dakota are pen raised, like that's somebody that thinks that the earth is flat and goes down, that goes into some of those conspiracy theories.
I wanted to bang my head on my desk so bad. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? But anyway, we don't need to go down that. But yeah, so
all right.
We'll just save that for next time.
Sounds good. Well, we'll do it again in 2 weeks. Thank you guys very much for listening. As we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff that's coming up, and it's coming up fast. I'm 2.5 weeks away from taking off to Montana. Hunting season is literally knocking on the front door right now. We're starting to get those nice, cool nights, and we're seeing, like, we've been out running bird dogs and everything else this week and getting to hear the flush and dogs standing on point and everything else. So we don't have very much time to wait. So thanks very much for listening, everybody. It's been awesome. We're gonna make everything so much bigger and better than what this podcast has ever been. And hopefully you guys all come along on the journey.
You betcha.
It's gonna be a fun time.
Oh yeah.
Everybody better keep their eyes and ears open because it's gonna get big.
And wear your boots because the BS is thick.
Yeah. You better have on the hip boots too. You might need chest waders.
Oh.